As a parent, you raise your children hoping for the best, but imagine discovering your child is a serial killer and suddenly finding yourself facing criminal charges for the very horror they committed. This is Mackenzie Shirilla, a 17-year-old convicted on murder charges after deliberately causing a violent vehicle crash, taking the lives of her boyfriend and his passenger. Shirilla's boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and his friend, Davion Flanagan, were inside the vehicle when she slammed into the side of a commercial building outside Cleveland at 100 miles per hour. Both young men were pronounced dead at the scene while Shirilla survived. Prosecutors argued that the teenager was on a mission, calculated, deliberate, and intent on causing destruction.
Threatened his property? She threatened to break into his house?
Correct.
Reportedly, she crashed her car on purpose because she wanted to kill her boyfriend, and his friend was merely collateral damage. The prosecutor stated that the intent was obvious upon reviewing the video, that there was only one goal. You see her driving very calmly, making the right turn, and then escalating everything. Just a few days before the crash, she allegedly took the exact same route to plot the crime. This is where the judge finds her guilty.
Count 1. Finds the defendant, Mackenzie Shirilla, guilty of murder, to wit Dominic Russo.
Shirilla was given a moment to speak before her sentencing. Through tears, she stated, "To the families of Dom and Davion, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see that I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken."
There was no medical condition that caused this as an accident. There was no mechanical failure of the car. A failed suicide attempt is not a defense to murder. There's a very good likelihood, Mackenzie, that you will spend the rest of your life in prison. She's sentenced on count 1, 15 years to life. Count 2, 15 years to life, to be served concurrent to each other.
The judge then sentenced her to 15 years to life in prison. This is Nicholas Cruz, convicted of murdering 17 students and staff members in the harrowing mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Full a month before the bloody assault, Cruz was already preparing. He spent weeks practicing with his weapon, refining his aim, and meticulously planning every single detail.
When you see me on the news, you'll all know who I am. You're all going to die. Pew, 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 pew.
On February 14th, Valentine's Day, the then 19-year-old arrived at his former high school armed with an AR-15 rifle. He unleashed a ruthless barrage of gunfire through the hallways and classrooms, stealing the lives of 14 students and staff. The massacre lasted a mere 6 minutes, yet it left the school steeped in blood and absolute horror. Security footage captured sheer terror unfolding in real time, as desperate students fled for their lives while Cruz methodically stalked through the hallways.
He got into the 1200 building because that door was unlocked and unstaffed, and that we say that that is a security failure.
Hours later, police body camera footage captured his arrest. He was found casually walking through a nearby neighborhood, blending in with fleeing students before being taken into custody without resistance. During interrogation, Cruz claimed a demonic voice inside his head drove him to commit the massacre. Once left alone, he repeatedly punched himself in the face, begging officers to end his life. Throughout the trial, prosecutors presented a wave of harrowing evidence, as medical examiners provided detailed, graphic testimony detailing the horrific destruction inflicted by the high-velocity weapon Cruz wielded. Cruz pleaded guilty to 17 counts of premeditated murder and 17 counts of attempted murder. But before the judge handed down the sentence, Cruz asked to make a statement.
I am very sorry for what I did, and I have to live with it every day. And that if I were to get a second chance, I would do everything in my power to try to help others. And I am doing this for you, and I do not care if you do not believe me. And I love you, and I know you don't believe me, but I have to live with this every day.
The judge then read the sentence aloud to the courtroom.
Mr. Cruz, you are remanded to the custody of the Department of Corrections to complete the mandatory life sentences imposed by the court.
However, a life sentence offered little comfort for the devastation left behind. Several members of the victims' families did not hesitate to voice their deep dissatisfaction, insisting that justice had still fallen short.
The wrong verdict was given.
This is Willard Miller and Jeremy Goodale. At just 16 years old, both teenagers stood charged with the cold-blooded murder of their high school Spanish teacher, an atrocious crime reportedly committed over nothing more than a bad grade.
We then moved her off of the trail, where I then struck her, and she died as a result.
Miller and Goodale attended Fairfield High School in southeastern Iowa, where Nohema Graber taught Spanish. Miller was one of her students, and after receiving a failing grade, his resentment turned deadly. Together with his friend Goodale, he began plotting to take her life. They dragged her body into the woods and brutally beat her to death with a baseball bat. Shortly after their arrest, court documents revealed a witness had shown police Snapchat messages linking both boys to the murder. One message read, "POV, you're my Spanish teacher and this is the last thing you see," followed by another, "Time to hide a body." Jeremy Goodale would later plead guilty to the charges, agreeing to testify against his best friend, Miller.
I understood that he had the intent to kill Mrs. Graber.
What is your plea to murder in the first degree, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Now the judge hands down his sentence.
The defendants shall be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 25 years.
As for Miller, here he is offering an apology to the court just moments before receiving his sentence.
I'd like to take this opportunity to wholeheartedly accept responsibility for the role that I've played in the murder of Nohema Graber. To the family, I'm sincerely sorry for the distress that I've caused you and the devastation.
The judge then handed down the final sentence.
The defendant, Willard Noble Chayton Miller, should be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 35 years.
These are Rachel Schoaf and Sheila Eddy, who both appeared in court for the murder of their friend, a crime committed when they were just 16 years old.
Their scheme was to hide knives on their bodies and to attack Skylar at an agreed-upon moment.
It happened in Star City, West Virginia. Schoaf and Eddy were close friends with 16-year-old Skylar Neese, but after deciding they no longer liked her, the two girls hatched a plan to end her life.
Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf carried out that plan. Together they stabbed and killed Skylar.
Following Schoaf's confession, both teenagers were placed under arrest. Schoaf agreed to plead guilty to second-degree murder in exchange for her full cooperation with investigators.
Not even words to describe the guilt and remorse that I feel each day for what I've done. I hurt the Neese family and those who love Skylar. I hurt my parents and shamed my family. May God bring eternal peace to Skylar and the entire Neese family.
With the plea deal secured, the judge delivered Schoaf's final sentence.
Rachel Schoaf, it is the sentence of the court that you be imprisoned in the West Virginia State Penitentiary for a period of 30 years.
However, she will be eligible for parole in 10 years. As for Eddy, the judge handed down a life sentence stating, "You will be imprisoned in the West Virginia State Penitentiary for the rest of your natural life." While her sentence includes the possibility of mercy, she must serve 15 years before becoming eligible for parole. This is Ethan Crumbley, who pleaded guilty to the murder of 4 classmates committed when he was just 15 years old. A student at Oxford High School in Michigan, Crumbley received a 9mm handgun from his father as an early Christmas gift, just 4 days before the shooting. Video footage even showed him practicing at a gun range with that exact weapon. On the morning of the attack, a teacher discovered disturbing drawings on his math worksheet, including images of a gun, a shooting victim, and the words, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me." Though his parents were called to the school, they refused to take him home. Roughly 2 hours later, Crumbley pulled the loaded handgun from his backpack and opened fire in the hallway, killing 4 students and injuring 7 others. Following his arrest, his mother confronted him in the interrogation room.
Why?
Overwhelmed by the reality of the situation, she broke down in tears as the true magnitude of her son's actions set in. Defense attorneys later argued that Crumbley was experiencing a psychotic episode during the shooting, claiming he was not in control of his actions. However, prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence proving the attack was premeditated.
So that this defendant planned the shooting. He deliberately brought the handgun that day with the intent to murder as many students as he could.
Crumbley pleaded guilty to all charges. Meanwhile, a statewide manhunt was launched after his parents, Jennifer and James Crumbley, failed to surrender to authorities. Police body camera footage captured the moment officers arrested them inside a Detroit warehouse where they had been hiding. Following their arrest, both parents faced involuntary manslaughter charges in connection with the 4 deaths. Prosecutors argued they enabled the massacre by purchasing the handgun, ignoring critical warning signs, and refusing to take their son home on the day of the attack. Both were ultimately convicted and sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison, marking the first time in U.S. history that parents were held criminally responsible for a mass school shooting carried out by their child. At his own sentencing hearing, Ethan Crumbley stood before the judge and spoke.
My actions were because of what I chose to do. Our parents, they did not know, and I did not tell them what I planned to do, so they are not at fault. I am a really bad person. I have done terrible things that no one should ever do. Any sentence that they ask for, I ask that you do impose it on me, because I want them to be happy, and I want them to feel secure and safe, and I do not want them to worry another day, because I really am sorry.
The judge showed no leniency at sentencing. At just 17 years old, Crumbley was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. This is Preston Walls. At just 18 years old, he was charged with murder after opening fire at Starts Right Here, an alternative educational program in Iowa. Walls' attendance Starts Right Here, a nonprofit youth outreach and education center designed to help at-risk teens get back on track. It was meant to be a safe space for second chances. Reportedly, one fateful day, Walls walked into the program with a gun. Without warning, he opened fire on his fellow students and the program's founder. 2 students were killed, and the program founder, Will Keeps, was seriously injured but survived. After the shooting, he drove away with his getaway driver, but police body cam footage showed he was later arrested.
Let's see your hands! Let me see your hands! Show me your hands!
Taking the stand in his own defense, he testified that he felt harassed and threatened by the victims, claiming he acted out of fear for his life that day.
I would have to come back tomorrow, and I was scared to walk out of that school at 1 o'clock. They waited outside the school for me before, talking about what they was finna do. I thought it was about to go down.
So you thought they were going to start shooting at you right then?
Yeah.
Before receiving his sentence, Walls took the stand to address the court, expressing remorse by stating that his actions had forever changed the lives of the victims and their families. Following his statement, the jury delivered its final verdict.
So as to count 1, form of verdict number 2, we the jury find the defendant Preston Malik Walls guilty of murder in the 2nd degree. Count 2, form of verdict number 17, we the jury find the defendant Preston Malik Walls guilty of voluntary manslaughter.
Tears rolled down his face as the jury's verdict was announced. The judge ultimately sentenced him to 65 years in prison, with a mandatory minimum of 40 years before he becomes eligible for release.